Hey, we're back in the garage. Sorry it's been for a few days, but let's point this back at the project here. It's been a few days, but I was at work, I had to pay the bills, and pay for the parts. So, I'm going to go ahead and describe what I need to do first, and then we'll go ahead and start doing it. This assembly, that's going to start today. The subframe is painted. The car actually needs to move over, because obviously I don't have enough room here. So I'm going to throw the tire back on, and actually when I throw the tire back on, I'll go ahead and show you real quick what it looks like when the tire is on it. That way, if you have the same problem, you can diagnose it. Alright, so I put the tire back on. Just to show you real quick, this is where it's supposed to be sitting at. It's supposed to be sitting just like this. About 4 fingers gap between there. That way you still have room for suspension travel, especially on the bumps and stuff that I want to take on the rally track with this. But let me go ahead and show you where it's actually sitting. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad. Got some suspension. Some suspension went down a little bit. But actually right now, I don't have a flashlight on me, I'll get one in a minute. But right here it's actually rubbing the wheel well. You can also look at it from this side here. See the tire's a little bit crooked. It's got a negative camber on it. And the tire is supposed to be just about flush with this wheel arch here. And it's actually in by, I don't know, maybe 2 inches at the top. So, and then if I put any pressure on it whatsoever, see how it goes down, and then it doesn't come back up. And that's because it's actually sitting on the wheel well. So that's what we're going to fix, and that's what... Alright, just so you guys can hear what ultimately gave my issue away, well, you can really see the tire sitting in there like that now, but just so you can hear what ultimately gave it away, I'm going to go ahead and push it backwards so you can hear the rubbing on the wheel well. That way, if you have a similar issue, you know it's either the suspension cone or a trumpet issue, or in my case, the subframe. So, 1 second here, I'm going to push this super heavy 900-pound car back. And as you can hear it, it's rubbing against the wheel well, making it pretty difficult to push. Straighten it out here. Alright, that should give us enough room to work around here. Alright, so I got the car jacked up. I know this is a lot of prep and that you really want to get to the build, but a lot of the work is prep. And I also want to show you that you can do this with simple tools. You really don't need, a mechanic shop and a lift and this and that. Anything on a Mini, especially one of these classic Minis. I'm not sure about the new ones, but the BMWs, probably not. The good thing about these classic Minis is that you can pretty much do everything in your garage. The only thing special I've had to buy for this car so far was a clutch puller, which you can actually pretty much use any kind. But I have a Verito clutch, so I wanted to get an actual clutch puller specifically for that type of clutch. It's also for the pre-Verto, but if you're not familiar with that, that's fine. But you don't need an expensive jack, you don't need a lift, you don't need, special tools for this particular job. The only special tool you may need is a cone, what's it called? I don't know, I forgot what it's called, but it basically compresses the cone. It's probably called a cone depressor. But you just depress the cone so you can actually remove it from the subframe. In my case, I'm just going to need it to put it in the new one because the old one is completely destroyed, so it should just slide right out. But here we go. When you're doing this, the best place when you're working on the car to set up the jacks or the jack stands is actually on the rear subframe right here itself, except onto the car, where you can see this jack is. Unfortunately, we're going to need to take that out. So, in this case, I used blocks. You can use jack stands with wood or what have you to give it a larger base, so that way it doesn't bend the floor of the car since there's no frame anywhere but the front and the rear. So, you got to support the weight with the middle of the car. So what I did was I got these 3 bricks here to try to spread the weight of the car across these little more. These are, I think they're 8x8s. But once I take the exhaust off, I'll go ahead and set up another three block setup in the middle there to support the weight a little better. But we're going to need, of course, to remove the subframe here, so I can't use that to jack it up. First step I'm going to do here is take everything out of the trunk, of course. And my garage is a mess, which my wife would kill me if the inside of the house looked like this, and I would too, because I hate being a pig. But I've had so many projects lately that it's hard to keep up with cleaning the garage and doing all these projects. Cleaning up as you go is not as easy as it sounds sometimes. Alright, these here I just pulled out of the trunk. These are the shoes for the rear brakes and the drum. So we'll go and, like I said in the previous video, we'll do those as well. That way, if you're interested in just replacing your brakes, I'll go and split that video separately. Here's my spare tire, which is actually a full size, because all 4 tires on this car are about the size of a normal spare. Alright, so we got everything there. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. Alright, so as you can see here, we got the battery out. There were some leaves and whatnot under there. But, yep, you got your approximately 13mm, depending on if aftermarket or what have you. Then you have your positive, and just take it out. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and remove the trunk here. So we're going to have to get rid of this wiring loom and disconnect these, and then the 2 bolts here. Alright, for the wiring loom, we'll go ahead and unscrew the license plate holder, or the light, which in my case are held down with Phillips heads. Alright, so there's your Phillips head. Let's come down here. There we are. Okay. And we still got the bulbs in there. I'll go ahead and keep those in there. And then what I always like to do, so I don't lose anything, is go ahead and take your screws, bolts, or whatever, and just go ahead and put them right back where they came from. Now we can go ahead and pull the wiring loom out here. So we'll go ahead and do that. Put this with the rest of the components. Okay, what I would recommend doing for this is leaving one of the supports on. Once again, putting the screw back. Leaving one of the supports on and go ahead and undoing these bolts. Loosen them up first. Once they're loose and ready to come off, don't take them all the way off. Once they're loose and ready to come off, go ahead and take the last support off, and then you can just hold up the trunk and take the rest apart. Okay, and we're back here. I went ahead, actually these 2 are completely removed, and then over here, I've got that last one ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and take the support off. Go ahead and put that screw back where it came from. Alright, and we will remove the trunk. Alright, so the exhaust removal, everything should be everything should be a 1/2 inch socket. So, let's go ahead and loosen everything up first. Alright. And then the same is going to be done over here. Just like I said, I'm not going to disconnect the entire exhaust. Actually, you know what? I might go ahead and disconnect it right here from the block. Now the exhaust is free. And I pull it off the hanger up front, as you can see. And now, a couple of quick twists. There it is. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and disconnect the emergency brake cable. And to do that, if you look behind the brake drum, you're going to see this clip here, and you're just going to simply bend this. Actually, you're not supposed to, shouldn't be able to bend it with your finger like that. Just going to bend that, and it's going to pull out. And then this pin right here is going to come straight up, It's going to release the cable. And then from there, the cable, as you can see, runs up, and it sits into this clip right here, which I actually started pulling on it, just to make it easier later. But it sits in there just like that. It's probably going to be covered in dirt and muck and everything else. So go ahead and use your screwdriver or whatever to get the gunk out of there, and then just go ahead and pull this out of this clip here. Alright, so as you can see, I went ahead, I removed the pin from this here. So I removed the pin. Of course, I put it back in and put the little locking pin back in, because I don't want to lose anything. And then you can just unclip it from right back here. I don't know if you can see it. It just slides right out. You just got to pull it out. And once you do that, it's going to release the tension on this clip here where it was sitting in. And then as you can see, now it's free. And there we go. And the cable is completely free right here now. See, there it is. Now you can just pull your cable all the way through. And there it is. That is the disconnection of that side. So go ahead and do the exact same thing on the opposite side, and that'll free your emergency brake cable. I've got a real quick tip for you for removing the emergency brake line, or the hand brake line. Alright, if you're having any difficulties whatsoever about getting your cable through that hole when your car's jacked up, it's quite a simple fix. Let me show you. As you can tell, I can't get mine out. So all you have to do is place your jack right underneath your brake drum there. Just go ahead and jack it up. And I'll go show you what happens. Alright. As you can see, you start to gain that extra room there. Alright, so now that you have the extra room, you can just go ahead and pull it out. Alright, so after you remove the emergency brake or the hand brake line, our next step is to remove the battery cable. Some Minis, actually their battery cable is above the rear subframe, so you don't have to worry about this step. But mine, as you can tell, is actually attached to the rear subframe, and it's going to be in the way, no matter what we do. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Alright, so we've got our battery cable removed. The next step is going to be disconnecting the brake lines. This is my favorite part. Not really. Brake lines, they're made out of brass. They're a real pain. They bend easy. If they're old at all, the connections are rusted at all, you're probably going to break them and have to buy new ones. But as you can see, we have a proportioning valve right there. We're going to go ahead and unbolt that from the rear subframe after we disconnect the brake lines. Make sure you disconnect the brake lines first. And to do that, you need an inline wrench. Here we go. This is an inline wrench. This is 7/16, which I'm really hoping that's the right size. Alright, yep. Let's see what this one is. Alright, actually it looks like somebody sprayed some undercoat paint on here. Yep, it's also a 7/16. And it looks like this one is going to be tossed as well. So go ahead and disconnect these real quick. Just something really quick to mention. If you decide that you want to leave these two valves on, if you're not taking everything off before you take the rear subframe off, you can do that. You can leave everything on and put it all together on the new subframe and just leave it on this one when you take it off. I have actually decided that's what I'm going to do, so I just disconnected the brake line that goes to the front master cylinder or front proportioning valve, and I'm going to leave these in here. It's disconnected, but I'm just going to go and leave them in, and I'll probably actually just go and leave everything on the subframe when I go to take it off. We are moving right along. Let's go ahead and focus on the fuel line now. Some fuel lines, depending on if it's aftermarket or whatever, it may interfere with the subframe. In this case, mine doesn't. Thank goodness. My fuel line is actually above the rear subframe, so it's not in the way. This is my drain hose. I'll just go ahead and shove that back up inside the trunk area. And then it looks like we are on to the main attraction.